The vicugna is one of two wild South American camelids which live in the high alpine areas of the Andes, the other being the guanaco. It is a relative of the llama, and is now believed to be the wild ancestor of domesticated alpacas, which are raised for the coats. Vicugnas produce small amounts of extremely fine wool, which is very expensive because the animal can only be shorn every 3 years, and has to be caught from the wild. When knitted together, the product of the vicugna's wool is very soft and warm. The Inca valued vicugnas highly for the wool, and it was against the law for anyone but royalty to wear vicugna garments. Today the vicugna is the national animal of Peru and appears in the Peruvian coat of arms. Both under the rule of the Inca and today, vicugnas have been protected by law, but they were heavily hunted in the intervening period. At the time they were declared endangered in 1974, only about 6,000 animals were left. Today, the vicugna population has recovered to about 350,000, and although conservation organizations have reduced its level of threat classification, they still call for active conservation programs to protect populations from poaching, habitat loss, and other threats. Until recently, the vicugna was thought to not have been domesticated, and the llama and the alpaca were both regarded as descendants of the closely related guanaco. But recent DNA research has shown the alpaca may well have vicugna parentage. Today, the vicugna is mainly wild, but the local people still perform special rituals with these creatures, including a fertility rite. Description: the vicugna is considered more delicate and graceful than the guanaco, and smaller. A key distinguishing element of morphology is the better developed incisor roots for the guanaco. The vicugna's long, woolly coat is tawny brown on the back, whereas the hair on the throat and chest is white and quite long. The head is slightly shorter than the guanaco's and the ears are slightly longer. The length of head and body ranges from 1.45 to 1.60 meters. Shoulder height is from 75 to 85 centimeters. Its weight is from 35 to 65 kilograms. To prevent poaching, a roundup is held every year, and all vicugnas with fur longer than 2.5 centimeters are shorn. Distribution and habitat. Vicugnas live exclusively in South America, primarily in the central Andes. They are native to Peru, northwestern Argentina, Bolivia, and northern Chile, with a smaller, introduced population in central Ecuador. Bolivia has the largest number. Vicugnas live at altitudes of 3,200 to 4,800 meters. They feed in daytime on the grassy plains of the Andes Mountains, but spend the nights on the slopes. In these areas, only nutrient-poor, tough bunch grasses and festuca grow. The sun's rays are able to penetrate the thin atmosphere, producing relatively warm temperatures during the day. However, the temperatures drop to freezing at night. The vicugna's thick but soft coat is a special adaptation which traps layers of warm air close to its body, so it can tolerate freezing temperatures. Behavior. The behavior of vicugnas is similar to that of the guanacos. They are very shy animals, and are easily aroused by intruders, due, among other things, to their extraordinary hearing. Like the guanacos, they frequently lick calcareous stones and rocks, which are rich in salt, and also drink salt water. The diets consist mainly of low grasses which grow in clumps on the ground. Vicugnas live in family-based groups made up of a male, 5 to 15 females, and the young. Each group has its own territory of about 18 square kilometers, which can fluctuate depending on the availability of food. Mating usually occurs in March to April, and after a gestation period of about 11 months, the female gives birth to a single fawn, which is nursed for about 10 months. The fawn becomes independent at about 12 to 18 months old. Young males form bachelor groups and the young females search for a sorority to join. This deters intra-specific competition and inbreeding. Conservation. For the period of Spanish conquest to 1964, hunting of the vicuna was unrestricted, which reduced its numbers to only 6,000 in the 1960s. As a result, the species was declared endangered in 1974, and its status prohibited the trade of vicuna wool. In Peru, during 1964 to 1966, the Servicio Forestal y de Caza, in cooperation with the U.S. Peace Corps, Nature Conservancy, World Wildlife Fund, and the National Agrarian University of La Molina, established a nature conservatory for the vicuna called the Pampa Galeras Barbara Daciel in Lucanis Province, Ayacucho. During that time, a game warden academy was held in Nazca, where 8 men from Peru and 6 from Bolivia were trained to protect the vicuna from poaching. The estimated population in Peru increased from 6,000 to 75,000 with protection by game wardens. Currently, the community of Lucanis conducts a chacu on the reserve each year to harvest the wool, organized by the National Council for South American Camelids. The wool is sold on the world market for over $300 per kilogram to help support the community. In Bolivia, the Ala Ala National Reserve was founded in 1977 partly as a sanctuary for the species. The numbers grew to 125,000 in Peru, Chile, Argentina, and Bolivia. Since this was a ready cash crop for community members, the countries relaxed regulations on vicuna wool in 1993, enabling its trade once again. While the population levels have recovered to a healthy level, poaching remains a constant threat as to habitat loss and other threats. Consequently, the IUCN still supports active conservation programs to protect vicunas, though they lowered the status to least concern. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service has reclassified most populations as threatened, but still lists Ecuador's population as endangered. Vicuna wool. The wool is popular due to its warmth. Its properties come from the tiny scales on the hollow, air-filled fibers. It causes them to interlock and trap insulating air. Vicunas have some of the finest fibers in the world, at a diameter of 12 micrometers. The fiber of cashmere goats is 14 to 19 micrometers, while Angora rabbit is 8 to 12 micrometers, and that of chartouche from the Tibetan antelope, or chiru, is from 9 to 12 micrometers, but since it is sensitive to chemical treatment, the wool is usually left in its natural color. The vicuna only produces about 0.5 kilograms of wool a year, and gathering it requires a certain process. During the time of the Incas, vicuna wool was gathered by means of communal efforts called chacu, in which multitudes of people herded hundreds of thousands of vicuna into previously laid funnel traps. The animals were sheared and then released. This was only done once every 4 years. The vicuna was believed to be the reincarnation of a beautiful young maiden who received a coat of pure gold once she consented to the advances of an old, ugly king. Because of this, it was against the law for anyone to kill a vicuna or wear its fleece, except for Inca royalty. At present, the Peruvian government has a labeling system that identifies all garments that have been created through a government-sanctioned chacu. This guarantees that the animal was captured, sheared alive, returned to the wild, and cannot be sheared again for another 2 years. The program also ensures that a large portion of the profits return to the villages. However, annually, up to 22,500 kilograms of vicuna wool are exported as a result of illegal activities. Because of this, some countries have banned the importation of the wool to save the animal. There is a limited but growing trend to commercially produce wool from vicunas in captivity, with growing herds in the Chilean Andes. Biologist Christian Bonasic has expressed his concern about the possibility of habitat damage and the transmission of disease in the farms. As of June 2007, prices for vicugna fabrics can range from $1,800 to $3,000 per yard. Vicugna wool can be used for apparel and home furnishings. A vicugna wool scarf costs around $1,500. A vicugna sport coat from the Italian tailoring house coats.It costs at least $21,000. Gallery.